Well, everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show, where I get to learn a little bit about somebody else's perspective on movies. And we're here live in my office with my friend Carolyn. Carolyn, thank you so much for coming on.
Ah, Shane, a pleasure.
We've known each other for
Too long.
a long time. It has been indeed a long time. And now we have an excuse to formally chat about movies and get to learn a little bit more about you and your specific favorites, Carolyn. And jumping into things with everybody's favorite question, what's your favorite film?
My favorite movie? Okay, it's The Lady Eve. It's The Lady Eve. It's a great black and white movie. Henry Fonda, Barbara Stanwyck. I forget who said this. Some sort of filmmaking genius said this one time, and it planted a seed in my brain. But somebody once said that in comedy you can have either like sane people in a crazy world or like crazy people in a sane world, just to create that sort of friction. And the two main characters are like the straight men, and everyone else is a character actor.
Nice.
So they are like hanging on the back of this thing and trying to change it. So it's a good time.
I have not seen this one, but I can certainly imagine Henry Fonda being the straight man to the craziness around him.
Yes.
Because I don't think I've ever seen Henry Fonda be the craziness in anything.
No.
Because, like, even when he was a villain in, like, Once Upon a Time in the West, he was a very serious, dangerous person. And I've watched a lot of Henry Fonda recently because of all my John Ford films that I've been watching for my series. So much John Ford. But, you know, having two extremely talented performers like them anchoring a whole bunch of crazy other character actors around them sounds like a lot of fun. So, it is on my watch list, which also has like 8,700 movies on it, but we're not going to talk too much about that. Now, Carolyn, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
So I went to go see Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers in theaters. And I've repressed most of this memory, but I had to leave early because the Uruk-hai were so scary. I was like, Dad, I'm gonna head out. I can't with this. I've repressed most of it, but I remember sitting in the car on the way home like, I'm a changed woman.
There you go. You grew up in that moment.
I did.
Which is really funny because I also have a story of leaving a Lord of the Rings movie early.
No way. Which one?
Fellowship.
What?
Yes, and it was not because I was scared, but because my aunt can't tell time. And
What?
I had a basketball game, and she didn't check the runtime of the movie before she took my brother and I.
That's key stuff.
She's like, we're going to be late for your game, we have to leave. And Frodo just got stabbed by the cave troll.
No.
And she's like, it's almost over. And then I went to school on Monday and found out that there was a whole hour left in the movie. I think the part that made me feel so hurt was when I found out there was a giant fire demon with a sword and everything, and I missed that.
Yeah.
I missed the Balrog. But, so, do you recall specifically what point the Uruk-hai scared you to the point where you left? Was it like at the beginning of Helm's Deep?
It was, I tried to white knuckle it for a little bit.
Okay.
I was like 9, and I'm like, I'm a little badass. I can do it. I gotta look cool in front of Dad. And I remember, I think it was somewhere closer to Isengard.
Okay.
I was like, Dad, I gotta go.
It's like, this is too much for me.
Yeah, I just can't. I couldn't possibly.
I do distinctly remember seeing the Two Towers with my mom, who did a better job of actually checking how long the movie was.
Good job, Mom.
And Return of the King. So at least I got to watch both of those in their entirety in the theater.
I have a question, though. How long did you have to wait to finish Fellowship? How long did you have to wait?
It's a good question, because, like, I'm trying to think. See, I don't remember if I ever got to watch the last hour before I went to go see the Two Towers. Like, I might have, because, like, I had the green, the maroon, and the blue DVDs.
Yep.
And the original theatrical cuts. I don't recall if I bought Fellowship right when it came out, though. Which obviously would have been before Two Towers came out in theaters, because then that just would have been a bad business decision if it didn't. So I don't know. I don't know if I actually watched the rest of the first one before I saw the other two.
You know what? Ball is life. So
Nobody has brought that up to me. All the times I've told this story about leaving the first one early.
I'm just thinking about how much movie happens after Frodo gets stabbed.
There's a lot.
It's dense.
You have the whole bridge of Khazad-dûm. You have the whole sequence
Galadriel.
with Galadriel.
Yeah.
And maybe I would have walked out at crazy Galadriel, unlimited power CGI lady. Yup. And then the whole entire Amunhen sequence. And I didn't even get to see Boromir die. He went down like a champ.
Yeah.
And then Lurtz getting decapitated. Because, it's not rated R if they're not human.
It's black blood.
It's black blood. It's fine. Now, shifting gears into a couple other favorite kinds of questions. What's your favorite genre of movies?
I love suspense.
Love suspense.
Really good suspense.
Uh-huh.
I like when you kind of establish trust early
Uh-huh.
between like the audience and the filmmaker. Because if you establish that trust early, you're kind of left in a good way of like, this film could take me anywhere, like with suspense. And you're okay with it, and you feel like you're not sure if you're in good hands, but you're going to have a good time.
Now, I'm sure, like, Hitchcock, obviously, is that kind of filmmaker where it's like, we can go anywhere, and you're along for the ride. You're in good hands as an audience. I don't think as his actors they were in good hands. But,
No.
But, it makes it work. Are there particular suspense films that really stick out to you?
If you're talking Hitchcock, I love Rear Window.
Okay.
Rear Window is phenomenal. I think Rear Window is pretty formative for me, actually, when it comes to suspense. Yeah, that's a really solid one.
And it's so great because, like, the main character of Rear Window is such an asshole, but it's
worst.
Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
So then you're like, well, we gotta like him, right?
Yeah.
So that's why the movie works.
I can't not like Jimmy.
And then it's just like middle-aged photographer lands Grace Kelly, but it's Jimmy Stewart, so I guess that works
Hollywood.
out, I guess.
There's Hollywood.
It's Hollywood. And then it's like, is that Perry Mason killing his wife?
But did he kill his wife?
And no, Rear Window is definitely a fantastic version of that. And, like, I remember at Haddon Township High School taking cinema class. Pretty sure Kevin took that, but I think he took it the year after me. But we did a whole sequence on Hitchcock in school. And then we had to write a paper on one we didn't watch in school. And the only one that they had at the library in Haddon Township was North by Northwest.
Oh.
So I rented that from the library and watched that. That's definitely the kind of movie where it's like, where are we going?
Yes.
And it literally takes you all across the country. It's like where Rear Window takes you all to the deepest, darkest places in your mind of what you can imagine is going on in your backyard. North by Northwest literally takes you to Mount Rushmore. And off it. For some characters, specifically.
Little dangling.
Now, who's your favorite filmmaker?
It's gotta be George Miller.
Oh.
Yeah, George Miller. Not the, like, largest library to his name as far as filmmaking, but everything that he makes I feel like is made with love.
Yes.
And I feel like all of his worlds, they feel practical and lived in. Even the post-apocalyptic ones.
Well, especially because the first couple of them were literally just Australia.
Yeah. Where could we film this? Australia.
In the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere. But he makes even the craziest things seem real and livable.
I love George Miller as well. And if anybody couldn't tell, I love Mad Max from all of my branding. But like Fury Road, one of my favorite movies of all time. Furiosa blew my socks off. And this man made Babe, Pig in the City. And didn't direct Babe, but was heavily involved in Babe. And he made Happy Feet. And it's just like...
The dichotomy of man, truly.
Yep.
This man has layers.
And it's just like, I'm going to make Fury Road. How am I going to follow this up? Genie romance. And then make Furiosa afterwards. Like, even like, was it 3,000 Years of Longing? Is such an interesting, strange film. And I can't believe George Miller was the first person to make Idris Elba a sexy genie.
The first, but hopefully not the last.
Not the last. And of course, Tilda Swinton wanted some of that sexy Idris Elba genie.
Who wouldn't?
Who wouldn't? Exactly. But no, George Miller is definitely one of the most unique voices. Because, like, Madman. This is a 70-something-year-old Australian doctor. He has a doctorate. He was a doctor. And was like, I'm going to go make movies about, like, the apocalypse. This leather-bound apocalypse. And look at us now. He should have won Best Director in 2015, but I'm not going to belabor that point.
Say it louder. Say it louder.
Oh, I was so upset that night watching the Oscar ceremony.
Steamed.
Now, let's think about in front of the camera. So who are some of your favorite actors, actresses?
Sadly, he's no longer with us, but Michael K. Williams. Michael K. Williams, he just brought it, you know, no matter what was going on, like, in his life, he really brought it, I think, both as a person and as a member of the industry. He's a pretty tragic loss. He has more TV credits than film credits, but in his film credits, you can just tell that he's able to create this chemistry with anyone he's paired with. He plays well off of any kind of actor. Here, he did. So definitely Michael K. Williams.
Okay. I'm not as familiar with his work because also a lot of it is TV.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I didn't start, like, hardcore watching television until, like, the past couple years.
Where would you have had the time?
Fair. Because was he on The Wire?
He's on The Wire.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, that's one of the... So there's a couple of, like, big HBO shows that I need to go back and actually watch, and that's towards the top of the list. I still need to finish The Sopranos first, and finish my Jersey Italian card.
Take your boxes.
Exactly.
We'll revoke your card, bro.
But no, like, I remember him just even being in that one season of Lovecraft Country that we got, which could have been more, but it wasn't.
That show just grabbed me from the jump. And
Yep.
it had me, yeah.
Because, like, that came out right around the pandemic or around there, and it's just like, at that point, what else did you have to talk about? You're just stuck at home, it's like watching stuff, so, like, it just drew you in, and it was such an interesting show, and he was really great in his role in it as well. Now, Carolyn, what's a film that you could watch literally just every day?
I could watch Pride and Prejudice 2005 every day of my life.
Nice.
And I would be so happy. It's such a cozy film. Even in, like, the hard moments, you know, where, like, the characters are going through it, you know. It's just cozy and warm, and something about it feels so nostalgic for me as someone who grew up in a house full of sisters. That movie is so real. I think in the director commentary, they mentioned how they all basically lived in that house that they filmed in for like a week. They spent a lot of time together, and you can tell just the way they play off of each other. I could happily watch that movie every day.
I feel like if you find the right period drama like that just hits all those right places, I feel like for me it was the Emma movie that came out a couple years ago.
So good.
I could watch Bill Nighy just be like, can we get more? Like, do you feel it? Do you feel a draft? And it's just
so good.
Like, if you can find the right one that clicks with you, those are the kinds of films that are just, like, endlessly watchable. And Pride and Prejudice certainly is one of those kinds of films where it's just like you have just this amazing cast of people, these characters, the actors, everyone's so beautiful. Yep. And just, you know, there's an appreciation level of just, like, how far you'll go in terms of, like, these are things that I don't deal with on a day-to-day basis. But I do like watching people from hundreds of years ago be so dramatic about just finding love.
I got a letter, but it's from his sister, not him. That's also a perfect cut, perfect film cut, I think, of the book. Because they scrapped a lot. They scrapped, you know, the characters that didn't need to be there. They reassigned, you know, some actions to some other characters just to really trim it. And I've seen, like, a lot of adaptations of Pride and Prejudice. And as far as a film cut, it's the one that does it right.
Because they did it in the 90s, right? On TV. And Colin Firth was in that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No notes.
No notes.
No notes. No notes.
Colin Firth. Now, very British. Extremely British. Yes. The most British.
He can't help it. He's born that way.
Now,
it's not his fault.
What's a film that you connect with because it relates to another interest of yours?
If you noticed, in The Conjuring, there are 2 ghost hunters. And I myself am a ghost hunter.
There you go.
Yep. Definitely doing different methods and having different outcomes than I've ever had. I've never captured any evidence because I think I want it too bad, and they know that. Never caught anything. But it really speaks to me, and what a ride. what a ride of a movie.
Oh my god. And the Warrens, just Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. Mm-hmm. So good.
Yeah.
The Conjuring 2 is legitimately one of my favorite horror movies.
So good. I actually saw 2 before I saw the first one.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, obviously the first one has a lot of those, like, iconic stares, the whole... And it's just like, no! And then, like, the laundry.
Ooh.
That gets you. The hanging tree. That gets you. There's just so many great moments with that. And then, honestly, I think one of the greatest scares ever is in The Conjuring 2 with the damn portrait. And you know it's coming. That slow-ass walk of that shadow just walking across the room, and you know it's heading for that picture.
I'm sweating thinking about it.
It's just... I just remember watching that for the first time being like, nope, 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 nope. And it gets there, and then it's just like, well, here it comes.
Yeah.
I'm dead. Goodbye.
And the release. And the release lives up to it, you know?
It's very interesting because Jess and I were listening to the Amityville Horror audiobook. Jess is has gotten super into listening to horror books at this point because then we just followed up with The Exorcist. But, you know, how that book is like structured is so interesting because it's like, it feels like you're listening to a true crime novel, except these are ghosts. And this is really creepy, and it really gets you. And obviously, like, the Warrens became famous because of Amityville, and whether stuff was actually going on or not, we don't know, or do we?
That's its own entertainment, isn't it? Kind of discussing with people and saying, like, what do you believe, though? You know.
My stance on ghosts is that if I encountered one, I'd be like, well, they existed all along. Not surprised, but I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair.
It's like, if ghosts didn't exist, okay. If they did, okay. I'm not going to be around them. Goodbye. So, I'm very much that way with aliens and ghosts and cryptids.
I want it too bad, which is why I haven't seen any of them.
There you go. Carolyn's going to start her own company like Small Town Monsters. And just, like, scouring the place, looking for...
On this episode.
Jess and I would watch, 100%.
Thanks, homie.
That would be, like, Jess's favorite show.
Thanks, homie.
So, what movie character do you connect with on a personal level?
In Some Like It Hot, Marilyn's character, Sugar. That was my first Marilyn movie I ever saw.
Okay.
And I saw it and I was like, I get it. I get it. I get it. But she is... A lot of stuff has happened to Sugar. She's had some of her trials and tribulations. But she is a very optimistic person. She's messy, just like someone I know, me. But she always is willing to give people the benefit of the doubt because she'd rather be disappointed in the moment than be withdrawn from all people all the time.
I respect that. And also love Some Like It Hot.
It's a good movie.
I got to watch that in theaters.
You did?
Yes,
No
at
way.
Princeton Garden Theater. This was back, I don't know, like 2017 probably. And that was such a fun time actually getting to see in a theater. But like, she was a special kind of performer. And like, obviously there's a lot going on in her life and behind the scenes with her being an actress and stuff like that. But like, there's very few people who had just that magnetism that Marilyn Monroe had. And like Billy Wilder has made some of the greatest films of all time, and Some Like It Hot is a special film, and I appreciate that perspective on sugar.
Yeah, you're welcome. I got you.
Now,
that movie has everything, by the way.
Yes, like I remember watching it for the first time. I'm like, oh, this is a rom-com. Valentine's Day Massacre, what? And just like gangsters. It's a crime thriller. It is a comedy, obviously, and Billy Wilder didn't give a shit. He just throw all that stuff in there.
This is what I like. It's going on the screen.
Yo.
He's a loose cannon.
And Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon, fantastic. And it'd be very interesting if that movie was in color.
Ooh.
Fresh
take.
And
Fresh take.
I would like to see it to see how different it would be. Because in black and white, you can I'm just wondering how believable of women they would be in color, to be honest. No. Not. See,
they've got some hams. They've got some hams, those ladies.
all the characters in the movie also saw everything in black and white, apparently, too. So, they got fooled. It's such a great ending, too. Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
So, what's a film that you love that you feel like people would be surprised?
I love Throne of Blood. The Kurosawa movie.
Nice.
I feel it's... Of all the Macbeth adaptations, that one's one of the weirdest. That one, along with the more recent one with
the Fassbender one, or the Coen Brothers one.
Coen Brothers one.
Yeah.
That one's also weird and awesome. But Throne of Blood, that one is like, it introduces so much more in terms of like the mysticism and really tying it to more Japanese folklore. And some of the shots in that movie are absolutely bonkers. Like the arrows and like riding the horses like through the woods, and it's an absolutely beautiful movie to watch. Like, there's no like bathroom scene in that movie where you like run and get a drink or anything like that. You have to sit and watch the whole thing.
It's my favorite adaptation of Macbeth, just because I love, like, if you're gonna adapt Shakespeare, you have to do it in interesting ways. You know, like The Lion King. Hamlet. But Kurosawa taking that whole entire story, which is very Scottish, and just plopping it in feudal Japan was the coolest. And speaking of shots, I'm pretty sure they literally tried to shoot and kill Toshiro Mifune at the end of the film, because like that was scary. I'm like, this is scaring me, and he looks absolutely terrified because like Akira Kurosawa is just off to the side. He's like, shoot him! Just like realism.
Stop flinching.
Like, obviously there's moments where you can see like
the strings
and stuff like that, but like it feels like they're legit trying to shoot at him, and it feels so visceral. Shameless plugs. If you want to hear more thoughts on Throne of Blood, you could check out one of my episodes of the Wasteland Retrospective with my buddy Luke, where we talked about that and Ron. So, double dose of Kurosawa. So, we love shameless plugs on here. But, no, Throne of Blood is so cool. And we talked about it for our movie club at some point, too. So, yes, I've talked about that movie plenty of times on the internet. So, because it's great. And that's how you adapt something. You make it interesting, you do something cool with it. The Joel Coen version, too, that whole idea of like it being like this mix of an actual set and like a stage play was such an interesting idea, and it's so creepy. And Denzel. And also the side eye from Frances McDormand is like, I feel like could shoot you in the chest and just whoosh.
Yeah, what a great Lady Macbeth.
Well, the fun fact, that she's the reason it got made. Because she wanted to play Lady Macbeth, and it pays off to have your husband be a famous director.
Where did I go wrong?
Kevin still has time.
He has time. That's right. He can be a late bloomer, come out of the scene.
Yep, Kevin has time. Now, my last question for you is, what do you love most about movies?
feel like we've always been good at making them. Even when we were just kind of, and I'm thinking like 1890s, like through 1910s, you know, people opening up parts of a wall and like peeking at each other.
Yeah.
You know, we've always, you know, appreciated the translation of something that you might typically see on a theater set, going into a different sort of theater and a different kind of experience. And even when we were new at it, you know, we were always good at it, and we always were like thinking of different ways we could do it.
I appreciate that, and also the highlighting of like the dawn of cinema, because I have spent a lot of time going back and watching really old stuff,
Just
especially with
just a little.
especially with my one podcast, the Cinematic Wasteland, and having watched, I'm up to the point now where I have watched at least 25 films from 1900 all the way through 1915. So like I've been really digging into like older cinema and just watching people like Georges Méliès and just the imagination that was brought to screen, or Dante's Inferno, which was one of the first great epics of cinema, which is like a 70-minute film adaptation of, they do some wild stuff in them. I'm just like, how'd they do this?
Very creative.
So creative, and there's just so many amazing things that you get to see, and the fact that it's like, obvious, a lot of people are just like, well, that's old, and just kind of write things off and don't want to watch them. I certainly know people who don't want to watch anything like before the 90s, aka when they were born. And you're missing out on so many awesome things to check out. So I appreciate that.
I got you, buddy.
And how I always like to wrap up this show is allow my guests to ask me a question. So Carolyn, what would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
Wasteland Reviewer, I know that you love George Miller the way that I do. Okay, what's your ride in the Mad Max universe? Describe it for me. Paint me a picture.
Oh my god. That is a fun question. I feel like I'm not going to just take an easy answer and just be like, I would drive an Interceptor. We are going to, you know what? I'm going to do justice to my old car, Max, who people called a grandpa car because it was a 2008 Ford Fusion. I'm going to take that Fusion and we're going to spike it up.
Oh.
And there's definitely going to be stuff hanging on the front that I could use as like a battering ram.
Nice.
I'm going to find the only metal statue of a ram in all of Australia, cut the head off of it, and literally put that on the front of my car.
That's sick! I love that!
And I'm not going to paint it black. It's still going to be the like light greenish like color that it was, that kind of also made it look like a grandpa car because it also had a tan interior. But no, that thing's going to get me through the wasteland, and it'll survive better than when somebody rear-ended and killed it.
That's a chariot. That's a chariot.
Which, I have to say though, that chariot though, that Dementus had in Furiosa was wild.
I was not ready for that because I caught glimpses of it in the trailer, but when we saw it in theaters, I was like, Kevin, he's got 3 motorcycles, Kevin.
They're all strung together.
I was a problem.
So yeah, I'm gonna take my grandpa car, Ford Fusion, and literally put a ram on the front of it and put spikes, and nobody's gonna mess with my grandpa car anymore.
Absolutely not.
There you go.
Grandpa car. That's a survivor car.
And it's just like, kind of would blend in a little bit better in the desert than, black.
It's true.
I feel like unless it's night, that black's gonna stick out like a sore thumb in the middle of desert.
What are we doing here?
What are we doing here? Small thing, I really wish that they used the theme from the trailer from Furiosa actually in the movie.
It was a great theme. Where was it? That's a great point. It wasn't in there.
That was probably my biggest disappointment of that movie, was the music. Because, the music goes so hard in Fury Road to the point where I just listened to that checking payroll for years after Fury Road came out.
That is the most metal.
It's the most metal.
Office work.
Most metal thing to do while at work while trying to check payroll. Because, Brother in Arms is one of the coolest pieces of composition for a movie ever. And I feel like Furiosa just felt like greatest hits and toned down. And I'm just I'm a little disappointed by that.
Yeah, it didn't live up.
But everything else was pretty damn amazing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Brothers in Arms is the scene where in the rig where he does this insane, almost one-handed reload on film.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? It's
Crazy.
ridiculous.
And just that, and then of course that first moment in Fury Road when that camera's coming up all the drums and turns around and dude's wearing his mom's face and playing a guitar and it's like flames, and you're just like, this is the most metal thing ever made by a 70-year-old Australian man.
He's here to have a good time.
He just looks like a grandpa. And like his wife, who's the editor too, and like the costume designer who just came out in this whole leather outfit at the Oscars to get her Oscar. I'm just like, what a crew, crazy Australian people put this movie together. But no, I would still name my car Max. Max would be a road warrior for sure.
Max Rockatansky.
There we go.
It's a good ride.
But Carolyn, thank you so much for coming on and chatting movies with me.
Shane, what a pleasure this was. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Happy to be here.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.